How's your day so far today?
So far, so good. Feels like being in Sweden.
Because the weather?
Yeah.
I think minus the extravagance.
Exactly.
You don't have this
No.
extravagance.
No. They're warming for snow tonight in the hotel.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be nice.
That'd be nice. With only summer tires on the cars. Gonna be interesting.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we are in the Crillon right now, for those watching with video.
Yep.
Very French, very cozy.
Extremely. Nice.
Yeah, I love it here.
Mm-mm.
Do you find inspiration when you're in Paris?
Yeah. I think from everything. The way people dress.
Yeah.
From architecture. Extremely beautiful city. And obviously the passion for gastronomy or food. It's in the French DNA, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is so much more aware. And some things they do here would like never fly in Sweden.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it's so no, I mean in many ways it's the center of gastronomy.
Yeah. Sweden is in many ways very passionate about simplicity, right?
It is. But you know, we don't have the history the French has.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I mean, looking where France is based, what they got everything from the Alps to, you know, both Mediterranean, the Atlantic, and also the region for doing, the soil for doing extremely good beverage when it comes to wine.
Yeah.
They got it all.
Around the world with your host, the Gstaad Guy. We welcome you back to the Gstaad Guy podcast, sharing stories of excellence with those in the know for those who just know.
Well, Björn Frantzen, it is a great pleasure and honor to have you here on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Very excited for this. Been trying to make this happen for a long time.
Yeah, over a year or something, right?
Yeah. So very happy we finally
Finally.
managed to make it work. You are the only chef in the world with 3 Michelin stars from 3 different restaurants.
Yes.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's crazy.
How does it feel?
Oof. Yeah, it feels good, to be honest. I think it's a little bit of a mixed emotions also, because also, of course, it's also on the restaurants are based on 3 different continents, which makes it harder to keep control, and you feel the pressure of that. You feel responsible, you know, responsibility. But at the same time, I'm extremely happy and proud over the team. I mean, obviously, it's, as I said, it's 3 restaurants. It's 100% a team effort. So I'm proud over the team, and I'm proud over the achievement. Something that when I started in this industry was never, it wasn't, you know, something you think about.
Mm-hmm. What is the process of working your way to those stars, specifically in star 1, star 2, star 3?
When I first started, obviously getting the first star, we got it within like 10 months of opening. That was like the main goal when we opened. We wanted to be a Michelin star restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of just a year later, we got the second star, which we never planned for or imagined. And that was really the big, because we're 2 young guys, just opened a restaurant, and then 20 months later we had 2 Michelin stars. That really started the whole thing, I would say. If we would have been stuck on 1 star, I don't know if I ever would have been in this situation I am now. I think it was to get to those 2 stars very quickly that really also people started to pay attention, also internationally.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also the same time when a lot of things is happening. This is back in 2010. It's like, you know, social media with Instagram and everything. And then this British magazine started the world's 50 best restaurant list that really took off. So there was a lot of things happening at the same time. So that was massive for us. The process, I would say, between 1 and 2 and 2 to 3. for me, it's hard to be on 2-star level because it's like you have, I think most chefs that have 2 Michelin stars, they have the ambition to go for 3. So you have all the costs and, you know, all the stuff for pushing for 3, but you can't charge the prices of a 3 Michelin star restaurant, even though you have the costs for it. So you sort of kind of caught in between there, which is a hard stage to be at.
Yeah.
And then for me, if I compare 2 to 3-star restaurants, I've said most 2 and 3-star restaurants maybe work with the same quality of ingredients, etc. But for me, when I feel it's a 3-star restaurant, it's necessarily not about being better food, but it's about you can see, I can see straight away, even on a picture on Instagram or whatever, if it's like a 2 or 3-star restaurant, because the 3-star restaurants, they have, you see the chef's personality, the chef's style on the food. So I would say the gap in between 2 and 3 is that even though you don't see the chef, when you entering the restaurant or when you sit and eat, you will identify, okay, this is Alain Ducasse's food, or this is Björn Frantzen, or this is Daniel Ham, or this is, you see it when it comes to the 3 stars. I would say that's the biggest difference. Maybe not on, you know, on the ingredients or whatever, more like personality.
And as an outsider's assumption, I can assume the path and process of acquiring stars, let's say you're holding a sword, is very different to the process of maintaining those stars where you're holding a shield.
Yeah, I mean, both yes and no. Because I think like, well, this is my philosophy at least. I mean, we keep pushing because I feel as soon as you start trying to protect, I think it's easy to like, compared to a train, the train will start slowing down.
Yeah.
So, but of course, going to once a year, we have the Michelin Awards, the Michelin Galas, the ceremony. And the difference is when you have 3 stars, everyone expects like it of course you should have the 3 stars. But it's not, of course, it's just as hard as getting them.
Yeah.
So it's like you can, all there is like a relief. And of course, joy about keeping it and proud, but it's like you post it on Instagram when you get 3 stars the first time, you know, you get 10 times as much likes as you posting like, oh, we kept them. Yeah. And when it's like, yeah, of course. But it's not, of course. It's been 365 days of hard work and problems to be sorted. So in that way, it is a little bit like the sword and shield in that sense, but we try to keep pushing. That's all I can say.
You never put the sword down.
No, and also because a lot of staff, I'll be lucky, a lot of staff stay with me for a long time. They stay because they want to see new dishes and learn stuff. And also we have a lot of regular guests, even though it's a 3 Michelin star restaurants, and they don't want to see the same dishes over and over again.
I had the pleasure of dining with you at one of your more casual concepts, Studio Frantzén in Dubai.
Yep.
And I remember I was talking to you about my palate and saying to your girlfriend, I remember I said, I find Michelin star dining intimidating. And your girlfriend said, well, it's funny, Bjorn feels the exact same way. I was like, there's no way Bjorn feels the same way as me. She's like, yeah, he actually has a very simple palate. So I was like, Bjorn, I need to understand more.
Yeah.
I learned that night that your desires as a consumer are different to your products as a creator.
Yep.
I'd love to unpack that.
Well, you know, originally, this cooking thing I'm doing at the moment, that's my backup plan. My original plan was to be a professional footballer, which I was for a brief period of time. And then when I came into this sort of world of gastronomy and everything, when I went to fine dining restaurants, I loved the food. I couldn't afford to drink wine because it was just a normal chef, but it was kind of boring to go there. I didn't felt comfortable, and so for me, when I opened my first restaurant, I made a concept out of it, and I call it casual elegance. So more relaxed kind of thing. And also when it came to the food, sometimes chefs can do chef food, which is like to impress colleagues. It's like super cool. We do kidney in fermented mustard broth with, dandelion deep fried. Looks super cool in the menu, but how many of you guests will actually appreciate it?
Mm-hmm.
Not many. And sometimes when I done those kind of dishes, and I can see that maybe 25% of the guests, they're eating it, and it's like, yeah, it's okay, but it's never anyone's favorite, whatever. I just chicken out, and then I do something tasty instead. Yeah. And I don't know. And nowadays, when I go to restaurants, it's like the list on my dislikes is just getting longer and longer every year. It's a joke, So I would say, yeah, in that way, my palate is very simple.
Yeah.
It is very simple.
And then your creativity is deeply complex.
Yeah, I always been very creative, and so has my mom, etc. It could have been anything. It could have been architect or whatever, I guess, but it just happened to be food. And also what I like about being creative with food is, for me, it's about layers in a dish. Mm-hmm. A lot of times when we have a test kitchen where I'm together with my corporate chefs, doing new dishes, and it's like, yeah, it's good, but it's like it's too one-dimensional. It's like maybe 2 layers or something, but then if I'm gonna eat more than like 2 bites, I'm getting bored. So we need to add layers, and that's sort of really where it starts to add layers after layers in when you eat it.
So when did you catch the cooking bug? At what phase of your life?
It goes back to my simple taste again. When I was a child and younger, I kind of didn't like food that much. All I want to do is toasted bread with butter and cheese on. But my mom, she's like, but you got to finish your food. I've been cooking here for an hour. So I find a way of like slowly. So I sat at the table for ages. So I find a way of slowly kind of push the food around the edge of the plate. Yeah. And then okay, it's finished now. And then I lift, and it was like a Olympic ring of food around, and that worked in the beginning. But so it started like that, and then when I was 12, at the time, my best friend, his parents owned a small, tiny French brasserie in central Stockholm. So we went there, and I had a steak frit for the first time in my life. The perfect grilled ribeye, crispy salty fries, tomato and red onion salad, and homemade mayonnaise. And that was my first hallelujah moment with food. It was so tasty. So when I left, I decided like, okay, when I go to college, I'm gonna go catering college, so I can learn to cook this, to make this sauce béarnaise, so I can eat it every day.
Wow,
that was the game plan.
Okay,
so that's how I ended up in this. But at the time, I was playing football when I went to catering college, so I was really. There was no interest. I was not there enough. But that's how it started. That was my background, and then obviously when the football ended in 20 or something.
Why did it end?
I had a problem, an injury, basically. So I was screwed. I couldn't continue, and then it was like, okay, what should I do now? Okay, let's get back to that cooking thing. But
that's crazy.
To be honest, at the time I was maybe 20, 21. I couldn't tell the difference between like parsley and tarragon, because I know this because I was doing like a free stage in a Michelin-starred restaurant in Stockholm, and the head chef was making something, and he asked me to go and get the tarragon, and there was this big wall of herbs in the fridge, and I didn't know which one. I didn't know what tarragon was.
I'll be honest, I have no idea what tarragon is.
So it, well, but you're not working professional kitchen.
Not working in a professional kitchen.
Oh yeah,
That's
no.
true.
So there was pretty long journey from there.
Wow. So from your injury,
Mm-hmm.
you start working in that kitchen.
Yep.
Did it feel like all was lost at that point in your life?
It did for a short stint, but then when I came into this was my first Michelin kitchen I went to. And then I found out like it was the perfect substitute because it's so many similarities to professional, sports. So when it comes to the football, it was the same thing. Like 10 minutes before you open a Michelin star restaurant, it's the same thing as 10 minutes before kickoff in the dressing room. You're a group of people that have, high standards on yourself, and you need to go out and perform. And you have high expectations from the outside, like from the crowd, and it's the same here from the guests. So there was so many similarities. So it was just the perfect switch for me to get into Michelin star kitchen. So I'm lucky that I went into a Michelin star kitchen because it was in many ways the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see in my kitchens that were in even also in front of house or my Michelin star restaurants. There are a lot of people who has that guy used to be an ex in the Swedish national team of badminton. Someone used to be a hockey goalie. There's a lot of guys that has been into the sort of athlete world and elite world. It's the same, the same kind of triggers and yeah.
I have a somewhat of an understanding of that culture in the kitchen and also the culture on the pitch, but I think something that's also incredibly unique about this in your story is also Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love to understand more about what a team and even working in a kitchen in Sweden is like and how that may be different to other places around the world.
Yeah, no, so I think, the industry and the kitchen's done a big turnaround and we've gone a long way. I would say also compare in Sweden because it's obviously a very socialist country and it's very tax heavy. So if you're gonna compete on an international level, you need to be extremely good in organization and planning because you basically can't afford to have as many chefs as you have in other countries. And I think that goes to everything within Swedish, companies that are competing with international. It's hard. We need to be better organized. We need to be a lot of things. But Sweden, 20 years ago, there was no 2 Michelin-star restaurants. There was no 3 Michelin-star restaurants.
Wow.
There was only 1-star restaurants. And I would say even the whole Nordic region, most restaurants were driven by German or Austrian or head chefs or French. But then there was I've been talking to a Swedish professor, and he said that big turnaround that you've seen in Sweden for the last 15 years, you see it if you look back in history, you see that every 150 years. So obviously that doing this kind of restaurants right now in Sweden and in the Nordic region, it's never been better.
Yeah.
So there was this young generation at the time of me and a lot of other Nordic chefs, René Redzepi from Noma, etc. A lot of guys. We've been training overseas and we came back and we thought like, no, we need to do something differently here with the gastronomy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not only cook French food and etc. So there was a lot of, big turning points at the same time that happened. And I can just compare to most of my training was in London back in the, late 90s and beginning of 2000. And that was hard. We worked 6 days a week. We start at 6 o'clock in the morning. We finish at 1 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And then you need to get home. At that time, the tube wasn't going after midnight. So you were doing 3-4 hours sleep, and then, back to work. And it was hard and tough, and a lot of things that happen in those kitchens is not supposed to happen in any kitchen.
Yeah.
But it was that kind of time. So when I came back to Sweden, because in those kind of kitchens, the problem that I saw was that people maybe last 6 to 10 months, and then they left because you completely drained. And for a head chef, it's hard to get new chefs in all the time, because the first thing you need to do is get the new one to the same level as the one that's left, meaning the train is slowing down. So I thought, hold on, you want people to stay as long as possible, because then we can just keep pushing. So I think a lot of chefs that opened their own restaurants in like mid 2000, we felt like we need to change. We can't be like the ones we trained for. And we did. And I think it's been good for the industry.
When you said you can't take French cuisine to Sweden, you need to have your own different thing. I know there's also some cultural elements you have to navigate that are very nuanced as well, generally for Sweden, but also particularly in dining and in the world of luxury. I think fine dining by definition is a luxury, and it's the way luxury is perceived and handled in Sweden is quite unique. And I'd love to discuss that, because to me, in France, the culture of limitless luxury is secondary, really. It's so deeply part of France. Exuberance, it's part of the French history, to be in these ballrooms and have gold and sparkles. And you see it on the dishes, you see it in the restaurants. In Sweden, you don't see that at all. I know you and I have spoken off camera about the Swedish word I love, Lagom. Lagom. Medium. Can you explain the story of Lagom and how that...
Yeah. I don't know. In Sweden, it's... You're not supposed to stand out too much. You're not supposed to say, I want to win. I want to be number one. It's not the Swedish way. You should be like, keep yourself in between, in the middle. Don't stand out too much. If you do, you get a lot of shit. And I think it's a culture heritage thing that's been forever. If you compare in the States, if someone comes in a Ferrari, people are like, oh man, you've been doing good, you got a Ferrari. In Sweden, people look at you, you're trying to show off. Why are you coming in a Ferrari, man? Give me a break. And people is like shaking their heads. I do think it's slowly with the new generation, and people are the new generations are better in that sense, but it's like, I don't know, it's so deeply rooted in many ways. And I think, look at Nordic design, whatever, and it's fashion, whatever it is, it's pretty, I wouldn't say pale, but it's not Gucci, it's not Louis Vuitton.
It's made to blend by design.
Yeah, it's like it's not standing out too much. It's natural colors. It's like it's no gold. There's nothing like that, So Lagom. If you don't want to have any troubles, you stay in the Lagom lane and you'll be all right, And look at, take Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Sweden's best football player of ever. He's not Lagom. He's anything but Lagom.
He's proudly not Lagom.
Yeah, I know. But, even the press, sometimes how they have handle him, written about him. Hey, we should be super proud that this guy is, Swedish and being in these top teams and, but no.
Yeah. So how do you navigate Lagom culture as the founder of three Michelin-star restaurants?
Well, I would say I try not to be so Lagom, to be honest. But when you look at the way I design my restaurants, because I'm deeply involved in all restaurants, but that's also due to my personal taste that I think like luxury is also changing with the new generation coming up. People going to Michelin star restaurants, they're not dressing up maybe in a suit and tie. Nowadays it's like someone comes in with, a Saint Laurent leather jacket and Valentino sneakers and whatever, and they might be a producer or they might be whatever, a musician or whatever. They're not comfortable in this kind of clothing.
Yeah.
So for me, we are in France. It's a lot of marble and gold and etc. And that's cool. That's classic luxury. But I'm not in that sense classic luxury. So I'm trying to. It's more, once again, more of that casual elegance that's coming through in the design, more than gold and marble.
Yeah. And that exists on the plate as well.
It does.
What would you say is the equivalent of golden marble on a plate and casual luxury on a plate?
I would say that it will be for me, that perfect casual elegance thing, and which is kind of like just as expensive as caviar and saffron or truffle. We have this Norwegian deep fried langoustine, which you actually eat with your hands, and it's served with like a dip, but it's almost like a mayonnaise when it's made. It's pretty complicated to make it because it's made out of clarified butter, and underneath the langoustine, it's a Japanese rice that we've been drying for 12 days. That we kind of get on the underneath, and then we deep fry it, so you get that crisp. But you actually eat it with your fingers in a three-Michelin-star restaurant, and then you have a little sort of rose petal water to clean your fingertips with. But for me, that's the same, and it's pretty complicated to do because the langoustine needs to be deep fried for 12 seconds, not 11, not 13, and the oil needs to be at a specific temperature, and it needs to be really quick up to the table before the rice starts to go soggy. So it's just layers and layers of complication, but it looked very simple on the plate. You just see a langoustine and kind of a sauce.
Yeah.
But it's very few restaurants that can pull it off because you need a lot of hands. And so yeah, that would be my take on it.
I like that. Simple to the assuming eye, but complex when you actually unpack it.
Yeah.
It's very cool. I'd like to go back in time to you working in that first kitchen and eventually transitioning to an entrepreneur, which is a whole different journey and decision. What was that process like?
Costly. Because, as you say, I mean, it's one thing to be good on cooking or etc. But then, as being an entrepreneur or a business owner, a lot of things is adding to it that you don't learn in catering college or whatever. Just being good on Excel and understand stuff, because you're working with human beings. We made so many mistakes in the beginning that cost us a lot of money that we didn't understood. So yeah, it was hard, and in some, even today, it is difficult. That's why I have a CEO, etc. Because if you can't be good at everything. It's hard, and it's few people that actually is good on everything, meaning they know how to run a business with everything that comes with that, with tax and everything that comes with it, and staff, and negotiating with suppliers, and then also being creative, being a good cook, if you're a restaurateur, you need to be a good host towards guests. It's just millions of things. It's hard.
Particularly over the past couple of years, I've heard a lot of talk about how complex and difficult being a restaurateur is becoming. Some to do with staffing in certain cities. There's just so many complexities in different places. And I know we briefly discussed London, but I'd love to touch on that. I know you used to operate a restaurant in London, Studio Frantzén.
Yep.
And you decided to step away from that and are looking for a new location.
Yep.
Can you tell us about the complexities of...
I think London, especially nowadays with Brexit, makes it even harder. And I think staffing, basically, I mean, I'm running restaurants in Dubai, in Singapore, and everything is also you have a lot of issues because it comes into, in certain countries, people are still looking down on the restaurant industry. So people who are locals who live there, they don't want to be in the restaurant industry. So then you need to be people maybe from Europe or whatever. But then come the next problem is the visa situation. You can't get, people in. I mean, it's okay. You can get managers in, but you can't run a restaurant with only managers. It's going to be a very expensive restaurant. You need a cook, you need a server, but you won't get visum for these guys or visas for these guys. So okay, what are you going to do now then? Screwed. So there's a lot of issues with that going on all the time. I would say the industry's biggest problem is staffing. And I think that goes with almost all cities where we're operating in. And we are pretty fortunate with, that the branding's being well known. But imagine running like a normal brasserie in Stockholm. Where are you going to find the staff? And everyone is struggling, and imagine in London as well.
It's very tough.
It's tough. And I would say that governments aren't doing anything to ease up on it. But restaurants are so important. You can see when they're doing a new area, whatever in London or whatever, all landlords or property owners, they want to have a restaurant there because that brings, people to the area. So things do need to change. So in that sense, I'm not stressing about opening again in London. We obviously we are looking around, but London is tough at the moment.
You're currently in which countries around the world?
Stockholm, Dubai, Spain, in Marbella, Bangkok, Singapore, and that's where we are, I think, now. And we are looking at, obviously, London, New York. We're opening in the Maldives.
Are those fine dining concepts or
No.
studio concepts?
Studio or Brasserie Astoria.
Fine.
So the more casual ones.
I love those restaurants.
Yeah, thank you. No, I'm pretty done with fine dining at the moment.
I mean, you beat the game. You beat the levels.
Oh well, I don't know, man, but I have my days are packed at the moment, keeping those three stars. So we see.
For the listeners today who are hospitality exposed or at least interested and want to get into the industry and maybe they go to a hospitality school.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't,
Mm-hmm.
but they are very keen to get into this world.
Yeah.
What do you think is the best sort of training ground and where you get the most exposure and learning as a young, ambitious person?
For me, if I'm looking back, as I said, I think it was a lucky move that I went into a Michelin-starred restaurant as the first one.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily do so much. I mean, it takes some time before you're allowed to actually start cooking, etc. if you're young and coming into it. But if you pay attention, you learn so much with your eyes just by watching and listening to what's going on in that kitchen. You will take up so much. So I would say that I would recommend for standards and procedures and everything, I would recommend to start in a Michelin-starred kitchen. And then you take that sort of professional vibe into maybe doing testing more casual restaurants where you normally, when you're young, are allowed to cook a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's good that you get into a place where the standards are high as a learning curve.
And what are things you have to challenge within to be in that position? Because I assume lots of young people who want to get into this world share the ambition to one day become the restaurant owners and have all these stars and reputation. But it's a long way there.
Yeah.
You need to make sure you're, I assume, willing to be in the shadows.
Yeah. And what I push myself when I was younger and what I push my young cooks to do now is to step out of this, their safety zone and start doing things that they feel stressed about and uncomfortable with. Is these small battles, for example, go up to a table and finish the sauce and the dish off. They shaky Stevens, they're nervous and blah, blah, blah. But once they've done it a few times, they get comfortable with it. It grows your confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So it's these small baby steps that you need to challenge yourself with and do things that you don't think you can do and challenge yourself by doing it.
Yeah.
Get out of the comfort zone. That's it. And the more you do that, the better. And it's the same even when people come and, when I hire people for Frantzén, they don't necessarily need to come from a Michelin-starred kitchen or whatever. I can go to a brasserie and have a great vibe from the server or service, and like that person would be great in my casual elegance, and then you might talk to them and like, you should come to my 3-star and work, and they're like, no way, I can't work in a 3-star. No. And then these guys, once they start and they're super nervous in the beginning, it might take 6 months until they're comfortable, but when they get comfortable, they grow not centimeters, meters.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I would say that you need to push yourself out of the safety zone and do things that you don't think you can.
Are there any categories of the business in the industry that you see less and less young people going towards and trying to get involved in?
I mean, we're in Paris right now. What's cool about Paris is that you see a lot of restaurant managers, and even some what we call captain servers that are 40, 50, maybe 60 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to the Nordic region or in Sweden or in many other countries, you don't see a lot of older people staying in the business. So I think we have a problem with keeping staff, especially front of house, for a long time. And I think it's a lot of people that works front of house. It's not necessarily that they gone through catering college, etc., because the dream is to become a server or a waitress. They might be doing something else, but now they need money. That's why they start the restaurant industry. So I think we have a problem of filling up with new generation of front of house stuff, unfortunately. And I think also that sometimes, I think we lost a little bit of what was really cool 20, 30, 40 years ago, where even when you went to a simple brasserie, everyone that works front of house could debone a whole fish in front of the dining room, flambés, everything like that. That's very rarely nowadays.
This podcast is brought to you by Poubelle by The Gstaad Guy, bringing you charms hand-painted with enamel on 925 sterling silver, allowing you to express all the things you love and all the things you might question, from Riva bateaus to backgammon boards and caviar tins to paddle rackets. There is a Poubelle charm or completed set for everyone in the know. Thank you so much for watching and enjoy the podcast.
Do you think the excitement to be in these sorts of roles has changed? Or is it an economic issue? I'm trying to understand what you think.
I think it's a combination of, because if you do all these things in front of house, in a restaurant, in a dining room, there obviously to debone a Dover sole in front of a guest, it takes time, instead of just the kitchen is doing it before service and then they just roast it and put it on the plate. So you need more staff to do it. So in that sense, I think it's unfortunately down to an economic situation.
Mm-hmm.
That's why that sort of crafts gone missing in most parts of the world, because it's down to economics. Yeah. If we do these things out in the dining room, we need this amount of more servers, but to have that, we can't raise the price on that, etc., etc.
Yeah. It's a whole different experience when you have all those things.
It is
accounted for.
It is, but prices are pretty limited and pushed down at the moment because of economics around the globe. So it become a problem. I mean, one of my favorite dishes is a classic steak tartare.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
But if you compare it, if you make it in front of the guest in a dining room and then serve it straight away, super nice and fluffy, and I would say it's like 100% better than when they do it in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna make a steak tartare in front of a guest, it's gonna take you 3-4 minutes, compared to just put down a plate. So who's gonna pay for it? Are you prepared to pay, instead of, let's say, €39 for a steak tartare, you need to pay 59 or...
Mm-hmm.
So it's always those questions that the restaurant industry is facing.
Yeah. Do you like French steak tartare, or
love it?
Not the Italian.
Nah, more of a French in that way.
I had an amazing one last night.
Did you?
It's called La Poule aux Potes.
Oh wow.
Really good steak tartare.
Okay, good. Then I know where I'm going tonight.
I recommend it.
I will.
Really good. Really good.
I
place.
will.
When you are coming up with a dish, or coming up with a dining experience, are you starting with a dish or with an emotion that you're trying to make the person feel and work back from there?
No, I always start with the dish, and the dish comes out of either I'm bored and want to do something new, or most cases seasonality. I think,
Fine.
you know, and the first thing I do is that I draw the dish. Some chefs, they go around in the kitchen and they smell a carrot and then they start feeling stuff. But that's not me. I'm sitting, sitting on by myself with a computer and with pen and paper, and then I start drawing the dish. And a lot of times, because the aesthetics is so important to me, so I need to figure out before I start cooking the dish exactly how to plate it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the dish might be in my sort of world 3-star level, but the presentation is not getting there. So then I can't serve the dish. Very frustrating. But yeah. So no, it always starts with sort of the aesthetics behind the dish, out of seasonality or being bored.
It's funny because you love the aesthetics as a creative, but from what I've understood as a consumer, you actually like the home style.
Yeah.
However it comes, it comes.
Yeah. But for me, it's when it comes to plating on a dish, it's hard to describe, but you could either be very tweezer, small pipettes doing drops and but for me, I want it to feel more au naturel, so it should be like it just felt down on the plate like that, but in that it needs to be an elegance also, because otherwise it looks sloppy. So it's a thin red line there, that where it's not too plated but still not sloppy.
Fine. Is there still lots of room for innovation, you find, in the industry?
It's so boring to say no. But I'll tell you a story. When I first opened the restaurant back in 2008, before that I was test cooking a lot of dishes back in 2005, 2006, before we opened the restaurant. I was working somewhere else. And I made a tomato dessert with like a lemon, coconut and lemongrass ice cream, and etc. And I was so proud. It's like bang. And then we had it on the first menu when we opened. And then first time I served it to the first guest, obviously it was a foodie. He came there. It's like, oh, so this is a rip-off of Charlie Trotter's tomato dessert. Charlie Trotter was an amazing chef in Chicago. I never been there, never heard about the dish. And like, no, what do you mean? Oh no, everyone's gonna think I'm just, copying him. So I have to take it away, So in that way, I mean, this is almost 20 years ago. So it feels like almost most thing has been done already if you're looking around the globe, and especially today with social media and things are flying back and forth. When I was younger, we used to go and eat in Michelin-star restaurants in France, and then we asked to bring the menu back with us, and then we came back to Sweden, and we were sitting with a lexicon, French and English lexicon, and trying to understand where everything was. Nowadays, people post it before they put it in their mouth, so it's a bam out there, So I don't know, it just feels like most stuff has been done, but at the same time, you can look at stuff on a picture and try to recreate, but every chef needs to go their own way and have their own way with it, so it might be totally different than the way. But it was quite some time ago when I saw or ate something that felt, wow, this has never been done before. That was quite some time ago.
Fine. Where do you find yourself, in what sort of establishments or even parts of the world do you find yourself getting a wow feeling when you're eating?
That big wow comes normally from a very good 3-Michelin-star or 2-Michelin-star restaurant, where I feel a couple of things, feels like it's a clever chef. You can feel it when the balance and how the dishes are created, and also where people doing their own thing 100%, and everyone working there really loves it. I mean, sometimes I can go to restaurants and I think, okay, I can feel the chef is going, he's under seasoning everything compared to my liking, but after a while you get into it because that's how we want it to be. And the front of house are so proud over everything and they're good at what they're doing. I get really, I can leave the restaurant and then people and I was like, yeah, they were really good at doing what they want to do. So more that it doesn't need to be exactly to my liking, but that they are really good into what they're doing. That for me is wow.
From what I've observed in a lot of these restaurants, a huge part of the experience is, for those who opt into it, is the wine pairing. Very little to none of which has any involvement with the kitchen. I assume the choice of what wine it is, but they're not. Very rarely is a restaurant also a winery. How important is that process to you?
My take on wine pairing is that, I don't know how many 10,000s, if you compare all the restaurants I've gone to and had wine pairing, how often does they actually make 1 + 1, not 2, but 3, which is supposed to be with a beverage, like a really hallelujah moment. When you eat the food, it's great food, and when you drink the beverage, it's a bam, it goes up one more step. I maybe had 15 of those out of 10,000s of great sommeliers and chefs matching wine and food together. So meaning it is less than 1% and less than 1 promille of a percent. So my take on it is, instead of serve great beverage that is nice to drink also in between dishes, then try to match them super, super hard. So that's normally my take on it. But once you get it correct, it's super amazing. But sometimes also the funny part of this is, most times when 1 + 1 becomes 3, not 2, when it comes to wine and food, for me, half of those times, it's been when the food's been kind of a little bit off season. It might be too acidic. And then you drink the beverage. For example, you have a super acidic lemon dessert, and you eat it, it's like, oof, your eyes roll back. And then you might drink sparkling Moscato d'Asti with sweetness, who kind of calms everything down.
Fine.
And then it's like, boom. And I remember I had in Japan one time, I had a super sweet melon. And then you were drinking a bitter buckwheat tea. And those two together were also like, what's going on? But then I thought the buckwheat tea was, in my liking, too bitter. And the melon was kind of oversweet. But together, they really worked. The only part where I'm worried, because you have a lot of people nowadays who doesn't drink alcohol. So if you off-season the food and people is not having that pairing, they're going to think like, what's going on there, man? You lost the plot. So, yeah.
Do you have an increasing number of those diners?
Yeah, it's less and less alcohol and more non-alcoholic, yeah.
Do you adjust the dishes accordingly?
As I said, I don't off-season my dishes in that way. We rather serve great wine, and then, more the French take on it. In most restaurants here in France, I was just recently yesterday in a three-Michelin-starred restaurant, which was great, and with, tasting menu. And they didn't have like a wine pairing. Like, here's the wine list. That's the French take on it. You take a great wine you like, we serve you good food, it's going to be a good night. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
So I'm more of into that liking.
Fine. Because you're a busy guy, you're hard to get hold of. You have a lot going on. You're always place to place. When you go to a 3-Michelin-star restaurant, do you ever tell them, like, listen, guys, you got to pick up the pace. I do this twice a week. we need to speed it up.
No. Unfortunately, no, I don't. And I try to relax and go with whatever pace the restaurant want to go in that sense. So, but
what do you think is a sweet spot for duration?
Depends again if you're offered to start or finish the meal in a different part, like a living room or a lounge, then I think. But if you're sitting at the same table and eating from canapé to petit four, I think it should be done within 3 hours.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Yeah. It's reasonable.
Yeah. Sometimes if it drags out to 4 or 5 hours, it's just too much. It's like playing around the golf. Sometimes in Sweden it can take you 5.5 hours. It's just way too long, man.
It's long. It's a long time.
Mm-mm.
Especially for people who are there on a first date. It's a crazy first date to go on.
It is. I don't get that. Who goes on a taste menu on a first date?
Yeah, they're locked in.
Yeah, they're locked in, man. They're locked in.
I've seen the Gordon Ramsay TV shows about angry chefs and like abusive kitchens.
Yeah.
And the whole stigma. I've never seen it in real life because I've never worked in a kitchen.
Yeah.
But I've heard these like horror stories and also dream stories. And I'm curious about what that spectrum looks like. Like, what's a great kitchen compared to a nightmare kitchen in terms of culture and bullying?
Yeah. Of course, I think the last 20 years been good for the industry compared to all the violence that actually went on in the kitchens. All the horror stories are true, and they are worst. There are a lot worse stories even to bring forward. When I first opened my restaurant, we had an investor. And then after 1 year down the line, I was talking to him on a Sunday. The restaurant was closed on Sundays. And he gave me the greatest kind of advice that I have carried with me since then. And that made my life so easy when it comes to these kind of things. So I called him on a Sunday and he asked like, how was the week? And I was like 29, 30 at the time. And I was like, oh, it's so hard in the kitchen. We've been so busy and the chefs are not performing. Going on about this. And he started laughing. I said, why the hell are you laughing? He said, but you don't got it. You don't understand, do you? I said, what do you mean? It's all your fault. What do you mean? All my fault. I think I'm doing good. He said, no. Listen, either you hire the wrong people or you train them wrong.
Both your fault.
Fault is your fault. So why are you complaining? Yeah. So what you got to ask yourself is, or ask the person that's not performing at the level that we need. It's simple asking. Have you got the right training to do your job properly? Have we given you the time and the instructions and showed you? Have we been clear with that? Yes. Okay. Good. Okay. So why aren't you performing? Is it because what we're doing is too difficult? Or is it because you're trying, being an asshole to me? Why? And if that happens, and then on the third time, it's very simple. You don't need to be upset. You can just come to the conclusion. Listen, I don't want to come to work and I don't want to have an atmosphere where we are being annoyed and at each other. I don't want to scream to someone or anything. So I can just come to the conclusion that the level we are doing things at, it's at the moment a little bit too high for you. So I recommend you that you actually work somewhere else, and then, we might see what happens in the future. Simple as that. Simple as that. So if someone is struggling or doing mistakes, ask them, hold on here, has something gone wrong with your training or your learning period, or why are you keep doing this? And if you have the right people on board also, they go home, you don't need to scream and shout. They go home and they being disappointed with someone hits harder than screaming. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I was a young chef and the chef came in screaming like, oh, you're so bad. You couldn't even be a lorry driver in Sweden. I think lorry driving pretty difficult, but okay. It was just bullshit. The first 3 times, it's hard. You're like, oh, shit. But then 4th time, it goes in one ear, it goes out another. You stop listening, But if that chef would have come up to me and taken me up, out in the corridor, into the changing room and had a serious conversation and been disappointed, I would have been devastated, Mm-hmm. And I would think about it all night and come back really rock and roll next day instead of coming in and feeling like you're hating your boss a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that advice together with being disappointed has been a big change for me. So, and I think obviously we don't have the same amount of chefs around anymore as we used to when it comes to staffing, as we discussed. So I think you need to, it's in a good way, the head chefs and the restaurateurs has needed to be better and improved in their leadership.
You've shared what it takes to be a great chef, a great team leader, what it takes to be great as part of any member of the team in a restaurant. But we haven't touched on is one big part of that song and dance, which is also the customer.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to know from the perspective of a chef and restaurateur, what makes a great customer and dining guest?
The best services with the best atmosphere we have is when the guests are actually also giving a little bit back, that they are curious, they are happy, and they are, interacting with the team. That's the best ones. What I love about restaurant is that restaurant vibe. That's why, for me, sometimes I tend to go to more brasseries, but when you have music, you hear sharing and laughing and clinking in the glasses. I love being in that environment. I feel comfortable and home in it. So it's when the sound level goes up. That's the best services, where people are having a great time, or they are coming in with the right attitude. Sometimes you can see people coming and they kind of wanna they're looking and searching for something to complain about or whatever, But when people come in and are seriously jolly and happy to be there and are enjoying themselves and interacting a little bit, that's the best services in that, when the guests are like that.
I could tell you were trying to be a big part of that energy with Studio Frantzen as well. Everything is sharing, and it's lots of group seating.
Yeah, it is. It is, and that's why also when it comes to my fine dining restaurants, I made my own playlist. I changed it maybe 10 years ago from like classic kind of boring background elevator music to Guns N' Roses, Metallica, etc., because that's not what you used to listen to when you're drinking Grand Cru wines and in a three-Michelin-starred restaurant. But it really creates that vibe that I want. And people get emotional when they hear music like that. Music creates emotions. So
what's it like to balance personal life with this line of work?
The problem is there's only 24 hours a day, and if you're gonna be really good at something and trying to learn to master something, you need to use a lot of those hours on perfecting it, meaning there's little time left for other stuff as family, kids, hobbies, yourself, meaning training, looking after yourself. People talk about 10,000 hours. I think it's a lot more to perfect something or being better at something. So there are sacrifices.
When building out your teams, other than of course hard skill and the usual, is there anything you look for in a person that you find to be quite unique?
People that are professional and serious. And even though that sounds like a very simple, common thing, it's not, because being serious and professional means not staying out late the day before coming to work, not drinking, also taking care of yourself, maybe going to the gym, because it's a elite thing to be on this level. So you got to be that. You need to live it. It's like, look at whatever people that are really good at what they're doing, whatever it comes to tennis or Rafael Nadal or Federer or whatever. Then they're out, drinking the day before, going into a game, etc., etc. And our game is 4 or 5 times a week with operating a restaurant. So and also people who cares, who I'm kind of never switch off work. If we have a problem, I might tend to think about it when I go home, when I go for a run, or even in the shower. And I need people to work with me that feel the same,
As you know, I'm not a big fine diner. Occasional fine diner. But I've had the pleasure of spending some time in Tokyo. And there I'm a proud fine diner. I love eating at amazing establishments in Tokyo, particularly because of that incredible specialization we've spoken about. That's quite unique to Japanese culture. A place will specialize in one certain type of cooking.
Or an ingredient.
Or even an ingredient. Just steak. I went to a place called Miyoshi in Kyoto, which is an amazing... I think they have 3 Michelin stars. It's amazing. And you could have places just tempura.
Just deep frying. That's all they do.
Meanwhile, restaurants like yours, you're trying to master so many different crafts.
Yeah. And I think that's what's so cool about Japan, and that's why I go there and feel like a proper amateur. I mean, and it's like you go to this restaurant that only serve chicken.
Yeah.
They have their own chickens in the backyard, and then they slaughter them, and the first servings of the chicken, you get a whole chicken. It's sashimi of chicken. And you know, your whole brain screams, don't put it in your mouth, man, don't put it in the mouth, but you still eat it. And I don't know, maybe three people a year dying because of this. I don't know, but it's... So the Japanese are so specialized in everything they're doing.
Yeah.
And when I create my menus, and when we look at fine dining or tasting menus, so what happened was like 100 or 150 years ago, the only place that did multiple course menu, that was in Japan, in the kaiseki kitchen.
Fine.
And then the French came there and discovered it, took it back to France, and kind of destroyed it because they start adding gluten in bread, a lot of fat in butter and dairy. But if you studied kaiseki kitchen, that's the master of eating a tasting menu. So I studied kaiseki a lot when I created my menus, and I learned so much about how you should do a tasting menu.
Mm-hmm.
Like how did you start always with something raw? I always have a shawamushi, etc. So for fine dining, even for French fine dinings, they're gonna swear at me now saying this, but it's all a copy of kaiseki. Yeah. That's how it started. So the influence of Japan, obviously Tokyo is the city with the most Michelin stars in the world. And to be honest, for the correct reasons. You don't open a restaurant there. You open a restaurant out of, as I said, either a product or a cooking technique, which is crazy. So I go and sit in the kitchen counters there, and I see the guy, and he's like 72 years old, and he's like a ninja with that knife, you know. And I feel like a donkey, you know.
It's true mastery.
Yeah, it is.
It's mastery in its truest form.
Yeah. And to have the patience to do that for 60 years. And that only. Oh, gosh, I get bored after 60 minutes, you know. It's very impressive.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and people don't know that's actually where taste the menus come from.
Yeah, it's true. What about omakase?
That's chef's choice, you know. So it's a take on it, which is a bit freer.
Mm-hmm.
For me, kaiseki, it's a bit too hardcore.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so ingredient driven, and they don't, you know, I classically train. I like a piece of fat and a Beurre Blanc, whatever, you know. But there it's like only boop, boop, and you sit maybe in a restaurant, you sit in a room on your knees, on yourself for 2 hours and just eating, no music. It's like, whoop. I think you need to be brought up in that to really enjoy it and understand it.
Fine.
But I study it a lot, how all my tastings menus are done.
Yeah.
And it's the same, I don't understand when you're having a tasting menu and then they finish off with a chocolate dessert. I mean, you are stuffed by the time. Yeah. You know, don't serve chocolate dessert as a last dish. Should be something lighter. If on my chocolate lovers, yeah, give it to pedivores. It's fine.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
I've had the pleasure of having lots of non-Japanese cuisine while in Japan as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's some of the best I've had in every category.
Yeah, I know.
Like I think the best burger I've had.
I know.
But
they are
the best pizza.
Yeah. I mean, they are such a masters, the Japanese.
Yeah.
But they feel like they're getting so nerdy. So they get so deep down into doing the perfect burger. Like we can't beat them.
It's amazing.
It's crazy. The mindset It's just, amazing.
Beautiful thing. On this podcast, we always play a game of à la poubelle
Okay.
versus fantastique. À la
Okay.
poubelle in French is what we throw in the trash.
I know.
We want to change. Fantastique are things we love and celebrate.
Okay.
In your industry, in your world, what do you wish you could change and throw à la poubelle?
I'm tired of restaurant trying to be trendy and playing so high music that you can't even talk to the people you're going with without screaming.
I agree.
Come on. If you want that, you go to a bar or nightclub after.
It's true. Loud music while dining, à la poubelle.
Yeah. Made me sound very old, but you know what I mean. You go to these restaurants and they go boom, boom. Come on.
Yeah.
Wait, we do that after in the bar. You know?
Yeah.
I'm tired of, maybe you just wanted one, but I'm tired
No,
of,
please, the list is great.
I'm tired of shellfish tartare of like stuff. It if it's gonna be raw when it comes to fish, it's much better when it's sashimi style, sliced thinly, because some of these tartares of shellfish, they grow in their mouth, they have too much sweetness. So I'd rather have it as a sashimi. And sashimi lobster, lobster is supposed to be a little bit cooked, man.
Is that because of texture or flavor or hygiene?
Texture.
So, because is raw shellfish somewhat dangerous?
Especially especially raw lobsters and stuff. I mean, it's much better with like a sashimi or hamachi or, halibut or salmon or something.
Yeah.
Throw that in the bin, man.
À la poubelle. Okay.
Mm.
I love these specific ones.
Oh, yeah.
Is there an ingredient you see that's being overused that you're like, oh, come on, not this again?
Truffle mayonnaise.
I agree. I don't like truffle at all to begin with.
Truffle mayonnaise is not good and everything.
No, it's not. Truffle oil as well, I find.
Nah.
No need. À la poubelle.
À la poubelle.
What do you think about shaving truffle on things?
I like truffle, and I like it shaved more than grated, to be honest. But what I don't like is the restaurants that put truffle on the menu and they don't change the price, even though it's in the summer, and they use summer truffle who tastes like wood compared to the black Perigord truffle. They just keep the price on. And it tastes nothing, and then they drown the dish with truffle oil instead. That go in Poubelle, man.
Yeah. À la poubelle.
À la Poubelle.
It's basically scamming.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Just putting truffle and then you go there in December, if they're serious, they have black truffle on instead.
Yeah.
That tastes truffle. What's up with that?
It's true.
Mm-mm.
Okay, what about Fantastique? Things you are proud of, want to see more of, and would like to celebrate?
I think it's fantastic that for the last 20, 30 years, chefs used to be seen as a little bit of low-lifer, scum kind of thing, to where the industry is today. I think that's fantastic. And it's also one of, I don't see AI being a threat towards this in the future. It's still one of these crafts where you need to, but it comes down to human beings. And I think what I think also is fantastic with the restaurant industry is like, for a while people were really going all in on trying to be part of this new smart tech world with wine lists on iPads, etc. But that's kind of gone now. It's back to, the craft, handmade, a big wine list or a menu with thick paper, expensive paper. That's kind of luxury today compared in this high-tech AI world, That's fantastic.
Yep.
I think that's someone made that paper, someone thought about how the menu should happy design, and
QR
we're going backwards in time, and I hate QR codes.
I completely
That should go in the
agree.
Poubelle. Quick, let's rewind. That goes in.
QR code manuals.
Oh,
Alla Poubelle.
la Poubelle. It's not COVID anymore. Give me something.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
It's the worst.
It's the worst. It is. And it's soulless.
Yeah, it is. I don't like a QR code menu.
Mm-mm-mm.
I also don't like a waiter who doesn't write down my order. Pet peeve.
Yeah, and I get stressed.
I get stressed.
And especially when it's a table of 4, like, and to be honest, they need to write it down because once every third, they still miss something.
Yeah. How do you feel about guests who try to change your dishes?
Oh. I mean, constructive criticism, I'm happily listening to. Let's leave it there. Let's leave it
What
there.
about the picky eater who's like, you have too much dairy. Can I have the dish with less butter, please?
Yeah. I mean, people are entitled to think what they want, to be honest, but I'm not trying to correct people in the dining room. Do I pretend to listen? Yes. Do I listen? No.
Okay. Great to know.
Yeah,
It's great to know.
unless it's very good, constructive criticism. But that's very rarely you get that. You get more people's personal opinions, and they're not going to change the whole restaurant due to one person. It's not going to happen.
No. Well, Bjorn, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
For being on this podcast, and it's always great to see you and learn more about the great things you're working on and your view of the industry.
Thank you. Exciting times now.
Very exciting times. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Gstaad Guy podcast. If you're keen to learn more, please follow along by engaging with our social channels on Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Merci beaucoup, à la prochaine, and a big hug from the Gstaad Guy.